Hey.
Yeah,
Well,
it only works if you do the right mouth movement with it.
wow. Welcome to Academy of Tone 254 with Ali Neander again. Yeah, big pleasure. He has a little coughing going on here.
Yeah, I have a cold, so I hope it's not too much of a nuisance. I'm trying to,
Yeah, but it's okay. I'm immune because of the dirt on my guitar.
Okay, yeah.
I've been through it all, and so I'm not afraid of anything here. And luckily, all these electromagnetic waves that we are sending out will not transmit.
Disinfected thing.
Yeah. Today's episode, we have a couple of topics. One is the Ali Neander pop gig rig, which is in front of us, consisting of a Line 6 HXFX in combination with the AMP1. So we will talk about this a little bit later on. At the end of this episode, I do have a long, interesting interview with Patrick Gifford, who is the guy who does the My Real Dream Rig Facebook group, which is exactly what we're having here, the Line 6 HXFX and the AMP1. So he is the expert on that, and he was very, very active. And he has a very interesting story to tell us about his odyssey or journey from AMP1, having other amps, having a Helix, having the big one, and coming back to exactly this kind of setup. But before we go into these technical things, we have to praise a little bit about our hero Eric Clapton, who just became 80 on Monday.
Yeah.
And while being in the car.
I was telling a story, because Thomas is 10 years younger, as I learned.
Yeah.
Only 10 years younger.
Yeah, well, whatever. That's from the good beer.
And I have a kind of a strange relationship to Eric Clapton, because before I played guitar in I went to the public library in my hometown in between school, and I was listening basically for a year. I was listening to two records. You could have somebody put a record on, and then you could have headphones in the aisle. You could hear the stuff. And I was listening to two records, Cream Life 1 and Cream Life 2. And I don't know, because I didn't play guitar, but it kind of sunk into my system.
Yeah.
And so I have this is a long time ago. And in this, and then I went to a movie that's called Cream's Last Concert. You
never seen that one?
Yeah, and they made a movie about their last concert, which is in Royal Albert Hall, and they look really miserable, and
Yeah, I remember.
But there's a scene in this movie where Clapton sits with the SG, and he is showing licks, but in a kind of slow way.
Yeah.
So I came back with a cassette recorder on the next day and recorded that passage, because it was, there was no YouTube and anything.
Yeah, this was the information.
That was the information that you got. And so I have kind of a very early
influence.
It ended like in 69 or something, but that period between 1965, 66 and 69 is very important for me, I have to say.
Yeah, and you also mentioned the fact that on the Bluesbreaker album, the Beano cover with John Mayall, Eric Clapton was the first one who actually created a rock sound.
Yeah, he's and it's a little bit I think underrated, the fact that he kind of invented this. He went to the studio and he dimed a JJ45 with like a combo.
Yeah.
And he was the first guy who dimed the amp, and the sound engineers in those days, your amp distorts, you have to do something about it. And they said they didn't want to record it. They said it was way too loud. And then he said, well, then put the microphone further away. And so he also invented
room miking.
Room miking. and that's really funny, you know. And this, from that day on, it was okay to go into his studio and dime an amplifier, and nobody has done that before. I mean, people did it with a Tweed Deluxe, but that was not much of a problem.
This was not rock and roll.
It was rock and roll, but it was not rock.
Yeah.
So it was kind of the beginning of rock. And I know a picture from very early Cream, 1966, in a club in London called Klux, that has a capacity of like 150 people.
Wow.
And they have 2 Marshall sticks each on stage.
Yeah.
So that was normal.
Loud. This was loud. I wish we had not this kind of volume restrictions these days.
I don't know where we really want this.
No, I mean, not that loud. but
you know, at least a little more tolerance, a little more.
Yeah. From where the rock music was coming from. I mean, it shouldn't be, you know, deafening loud, but it should be rock. You have to feel it too, a little bit.
But with Clapton, it's kind of. Then he went through all this and got addictions and all kinds of problems. And then he sort of turned more into a singer who's also playing guitar.
Right.
So it was much more about the vocals. Yeah. And then he became a worldwide star. You know, and so it was done not just the guitar playing, but it was the overall package.
Yeah. You know? For me, the first time I heard Clapton was with my father being at some students' home, Wohngemeinschaft in Germany, where I was always checking out the students' record collection, and I found the Clapton 461 Oceans Avenue Boulevard, and that this was a nice cover. I just picked the album because, you know, it was a nice cover with this. Was it Jamaica or
West Coast?
West Coast, some
West Coast thing.
Cool picture, and then there, I Shot the Sheriff was on that album. I mean, it's not Cream, it's not the Guitar God anymore, but it's cool songs.
No, I think you sense that here's a person. I mean, he could, like in 1972, he was 27. Yeah. So he could. I mean, he was completely on heroin by that time, I think. Yeah. And he could have died as Hendrix did and Janis Joplin and so on. So he kind of jumped the ship from being one of the club 27 club, so everything is completely understandable. That you don't want to go there anymore. You want to have something comfortable and have like a little clean Stratocaster and you know, and have fun with
Music Man amps. Did
he later in the 70s?
RD65 and whatever. By the way, from the technical standpoint, these amps had tube power amps, but transistor preamps. Leo Fender Innovation.
They were pretty good amps, though.
Okay, I hardly remember those, but I know
it's. I mean, some of the sounds of the 70s are a little merciless.
Okay,
you know? We all know this from like a 75 Marshall or a 75 high watt or something. You know, where you have to take care of your teeth if you're standing in front of them, but but still, it's kind of interesting. It should be kind of interesting to go back, but then on the other hand, you don't want to collect all that gear at home.
And for you, Clapton in the early years, in the Cream years, was this Clapton is God kind of hero?
No, this, you know, you have to understand this whole idea that guitarists are like athletes or something with one best is so utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, of course.
And so the Clapton is God thing, nobody really knows who came up with this. It could have been like a publicity stunt back then in London. It kind of, you know, the thing is with Eric Clapton, he seemed like the person, he was running away from success in a way, but success stalked him. I mean, there's a story. This is a rich man, you know. He's made a lot of money with music and so on. And he went through all these like terrible stories and addiction and losing son and so on. And then he, you know, like 3 or 4 years ago, I heard the thing that he had bought a painting by Gerhard Richter, who's a famous German painter. And somebody told me, this is a good guy, you have to, it's a good bet, get it for you. It cost £1 million.
Oh, fuck.
So he bought this painting for £1 million. And then he probably moved or something, or wanted something new for the wall.
Yeah.
And then he sold this in an auction. He got £20 million.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
So it's like,
rich, getting richer.
No, the thing is, you kind of, you don't really want the success, or you want, but it's been thrown at you.
Yeah.
and that's a typical Clapton story.
Why not? Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he
I don't
deserves
have a
it.
problem with it.
Yeah. Then when we look more at other albums that he has done after the 461 Ocean Boulevard, there was Slowhand with cocaine on it.
Yeah, this whole period, the 70s, and then he became kind of a pop star, and he had these
Journeyman,
the Shiny produced by Phil Collins or Babyfaces, and then he made of course the Unplugged record, which kind of
it was a super huge
and so he's been like successful. The thing is, but there's this two fractions of Clapton fans.
Yeah.
Ones are the fan of the guy, the singer, the overall package, and the others are like a little bit like me, the diehard guys from the early years, and say, well,
maybe he is not.
That was the time when he did something that nobody else was doing. But you can't be always. You can't be that way all your life.
I see it a little bit like. Of course, he reinvented himself, or he did different things, and in different times in the 80s, he played with Phil Collins, but I have to admit, his singing kind of got to a next level.
Absolutely.
in the pop world as
absolutely.
well. So that's
that's much more the core of the thing now. The guitar playing, it's all good.
Yeah.
And he's done he's made his mark.
Yeah.
But of course, the singing was
that appeals to a way wider audience, and so in the combination, of course, he was he is outstanding artist. I mean, and it's I think the good thing is when artists stay on top of trends and have something new every decade, they age nicely as an artist. Hopefully, and they have also an even bigger success. It's like
the interesting thing is that he somehow stuck to his guns. I mean, he's basically playing blues guitar, and there's some funny little Clapton things that he came up with, and he stuck with them. He never tried anything like. He didn't try to play jazzy or whatever.
Yeah.
He plays his stuff, but it fits so many different styles of music. So it's
and maybe one more mentioning. He was also on Beatles' White Album. And there was this relationship
with
issue.
George Harrison's
wife.
That we don't really want to go into that, but
confused rock stars on drugs,
and
probably.
And women triggering songs.
Oh yeah, Layla and other assorted disaster stories.
But it's a great guitar solo.
Yeah,
and I love the attitude that he had. He said no other people play on the Beatles record, and then he said I want you to play. So I don't want I want the guitar to be somehow with effects or something. I don't want to be too much myself.
Yeah.
And so they sort of invented this doubling with sort of artificial doubling in the studio.
Yeah.
And this has this sort of
unique sound.
And this is it's kind of a Beatles sound.
Yeah.
Played by
Eric Clapton.
And that's very interesting.
Yeah. That's maybe a nice point that we can bring into the production, because Beatles production was pop music, and besides being a fantastic rock player, Ali is also a fantastic session player, playing all kinds of music. I mean, I know you for so many years, and you brought me into the business just because you had a double booking, and I had to do some pop music that some people don't even know that Ali is in that field very active, and just recently Ali was touring with Moses Pelham, who is a very famous German rapper, and so what has all of this to do with what we are doing here? Well, first of all, it shows the bandwidth of your musical activities, going from Rilke
and Thomas Blug AMP1. You know,
in every situation, you can survive with an AMP1.
But it was kind of an idea to show something that's not in the usual guitarist terrain.
Yeah.
So it's not like the blues rock or metal or something where we all are, you know, kind of at home, and a lot of people have used this. But it was with me. I'm playing with Moses for 30 years now.
Yeah.
And I played on records a lot, and then we had a tour in December, and we had a tour 2 years before that. So it was like two-thirds of the program were already somehow playable, you know,
right.
And 1/3 has to be done new. And I wanted to have something really compact. 2 years ago, I played with a combo and a pedal board, and there's a lot of cables going on, and I had some problems with power tubes in the tour, and I felt I want something sturdy and small and totally idiot-proof, you know, because I mean, you guys. Guitarists are idiots. I mean, there's people that and later on we will see people that can really dive deep into into this gear. But like normal guitarists are, questionable in that. So I was looking for something that you don't have to fumble around at the floor all the time, because people with aging backs. So good.
It's nice to have a comfortable sit in front of your laptop.
Yeah, and of course the question is this still rock and roll? I don't know, but I'll show you something how I went about and how we got this going, and the idea came because of that, because Thomas has the exact same setup.
Yeah, which is just behind me, and
I borrowed it to train in my sub, because this poor guy, Jörg Dude, is this great guitarist.
Yeah, Jörg.
And the poor guy had to play one gig on the tour without any rehearsal. So we had to get everything as completely idiot-proof as possible.
Yeah.
And that's why I borrowed this thing, so he could train at home with this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you a little bit what I do. Or what I've done, and I show you some examples. So it's nothing, it's no rocket science, and it's definitely not a YouTube tutorial, because, as I said, like, I'm totally on the surface of all this. But I got this stuff that way maybe 2 weeks before the rehearsal starts. So I had to get something going. But first of all, I'll show you a little bit something how this thing works.
Yeah.
The beer for later.
Okay.
Now you guys have a look. There's a blue box underneath and a Palmer DeHammer. The power supply for the blue box comes from the power supply of the line 6. So it's a split power supply, and the DeHammer is needed because sometimes you have hum
issues. Yeah.
And this is the lifesaver of so many occasions.
Yeah.
Anyway. This is the whole thing. The setup of this thing is maybe a little bit different from what you would normally think. It's the normal 4-cable method. So for you guys who don't know what a 4-cable method is, guitar into the HXFX, send of the HXFX into the AMP1, send of the AMP1 into the return of the HXFX, output of the HXFX into the return of the AMP1, and one cable goes to a speaker. That's one channel. But you have another, and what I did was I went to like a cabinet. I had a 2x12 cabinet, and the other side of the HXFX I sent into the line input of the Blue Box.
Box number 2.
Yeah.
So this is like a stereo rig, and you have a speaker on stage, and you have one channel coming from the AMP1 output, and one is coming. The other side is coming just from the HXFX output, with
into the Blue Box.
Into another Blue Box.
No, no, the other one was a normal microphone, but you could of course use a Blue Box. I mean,
this is what we are
doesn't
doing
matter
right now.
We're using two
Blue boxes right now.
The interesting thing about this is that, of course, that's one of the things of the AMP1 is that it has a kind of a real tube amp feel if you use the power amp. Yeah. So the side with the power amp is of course is a little more dynamic, but if it's only about like having some spatial effects or stereo wideness or something, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is you can, like, I had this 2x12 cabinet that I used as like the main signal, and then I was looking on the Blue Box for a cabinet that kind of matched the cabinet that was.
Yeah.
So in this case, on that tour, I had I think the Vintage 30 cabinet
from the Blue Box.
Yeah.
But now we have the
1970 the stack, and
which, by the way, is exactly for my.
Yeah,
you're sitting there in front of it.
And so it's a stereo rig on but since I'm playing in-ear anyway, I don't need 2 amplifiers on stage. So I have a stereo signal on my ears.
Right.
One is a little more dynamic, but it doesn't matter at all. And that's the setting. Yeah. And now when you can show there's not too much to see, but you can show the computer. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Now the convenient thing is most of these things, also all the digital stuff, also they have some kind of a
editor,
and that editor was the good thing is that you have it on your side. You can always manipulate stuff, and it's a lot of that is about subtle things. Like for instance, this sound is kind of a. This is like a vintage channel with boost, and I have the clone copy, the clone emulation of the HXFX in front. Like I can switch it off. It's not a lot of difference. It's just does something in the midst, and that's I think a good way to use it as subtle as possible. And then you have, of course, like you have delays and reverbs and stuff. But this is the normal stuff because that music that I play with Moses, the guitars basically have three functions. One is the guitar part.
Yeah.
Because there's a guitar part on the record. Then of course you play the guitar part. But there's a lot of tracks that don't have guitar. And the least thing that you want with people from the hip-hop world is to come up with some kind of jammy guitar part on a track they have produced, because and that's what I have learned over the years. In order to memorize these enormous amounts of lyrics, you have to have a completely safe environment. That nothing, the less surprising stuff happens.
Attention away from it,
and you're thrown off the song. So you have to find something that works with
the music,
and works with the original production.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it might be doubling a bass line and giving it a little more, balls, because a lot when you play live and you have synthesizer basses, they have really low frequencies that are very strong, but they lack low mids sometimes.
Yeah.
So you give it a little more, girth, and I can show you stuff.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe I have to open up this other
wait a minute.
program. I have here some
backing tracks, or
no, it's from a rehearsal.
Okay.
It's from a rehearsal, and like for instance, this is a track that Moses has on this new record. You will immediately recognize it. I show you not because you know the Moses track, or you might, but
Germans might.
but because it's and I show you I just play along, and then you only need for a couple of seconds.
Volume? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Jacke von vor 30 Jahren. Mit Bohem und mit Freshness bin sehr böse und hab Probleme, die besser sind als deren Lösung. Wie das klingt, ein enormes Ergebnis. Shit, ich bin in der Form meines Lebens. Junge, Erfahrung ist ein Riesenlehrer. Unfair, hart und ein Spielverderber. Bleibt dabei, zeig ich das in den Plan an. Hier ist Latte, was die Schmorgelines möchten. Nach dieser Platte könnt ihr Spotify löschen. Jetzt wächst meine Leiden ins Verhältnis dazu. Ich hab Rechtsstreitigkeiten, die sind älter als du.
And you know, the interesting thing about Whole Lotta Love is they cannot sue Moses because they have been sued themselves. Because they stole it from Willie Dixon. So,
Willie Dixon song, yeah.
So it's kind of a thing that it sort of belongs to the world. But this is a very simple thing. This is kind of it was kind of a fun number, and they sent me when they recorded the record, they sent me a track, and they had the original Led Zeppelin sample on it, and said I want this to be replayed. No, Patrick. Jimmy Page has no royalties on this. They had to pay Willie Dixon. That's the thing. The interesting thing is that, of course, I got it, and then I kind of recreated it at home, and I tried to be real truthful. Played a Telecaster and a fuzz box and a Fender Deluxe, and then of course I never got to really to the sound, but you know that's the. And then they mess with it a lot, and then it's sort of implemented into the song, and then you play it live. That's a very simple idea because it's a guitar riff. But other songs don't have guitar at all. I mean, you have to like a track like this.
Let me check.
Yeah.
I know that we have probably only one side of the backing track.
Okay.
Just give me the backing track for a second, and I double check. Is it stereo, Lucas?
It should be.
Okay, I was wiggling the cables. Now it's fine. Okay, now with volume. And hum.
Well, probably like me.
No, it's the computer.
To explain how you do these things, I get the record, and as I said, there's no guitar on it, so I could like jam something, but I said nobody wants this. So you have to find your spot, and the spot can be that there's some synth line or something in the whole thing that needs a little support, like a marker. So you double a line, you try to carve out a hook, you know, because, and I don't know whether you experience that, but if you go to a live concert and there's a lot of like computer going on and synthesizers and so on, and a real drum is playing a real bass, it makes everything else kind of flat, because a real drum and real bass has a lot of like
impact already,
a transient impact. So in order to that the other stuff doesn't drown, you have to pick stuff and make it a little more, you know, bring it to the forefront, and that's that. And a lot of these, when you work in this field, a lot of this, and then you have to be, okay with your ego, because a lot of these things are definitely
not Guitar Hero things.
There's no Guitar Hero. I show you
attitude possible.
That's probably where is it? Let me see. Oh shit! I have to find it. Anyway, have to look somewhere else. But this is where I had to find here. Oh yeah. Where is it? Ah, yeah, here we are. Sorry.
Okay.
Like there's a song where I basically play the whole song. You know, I let it run, and I mute the guitar.
You are about to enter. Gleich wenn die Stimme kommt, erreicht sie die Sinne und so ergreift dich Erinnerung. Sie sagen, dass die Zeit verfliegt, aber ich sag, sie ist ein Meisterdieb. Also, hol dir, was du kriegen kannst. Monster hat niemals Angst. So trink ich auf gute Geschäfte und denk, ich hab Superkräfte. Guck mal.
And that's and that's the whole thing. But it's kind of it's so much about the lyrics and that you find something that has a little of a hook thing to it, and the rest is the drumming, and it's very intricate. There's a lot of like strange breaks. Sometimes it's electronic, sometimes it's real drums and so on. So it's not about you in that case. There's other songs where you way more in the forefront, or you play like, but I play like one real guitar solo, or maybe two guitar solos per night. but it's really interesting because you can, and that's good. That's why these things are great. I mean, because you can find something that if there's maybe a synth sound that needs a little bit of needs some high frequencies like that. Very simple things like this. You really have to, like. And it's maybe like a synth sound, and it just adds a little shimmer on top of it, and then this is why the stereo thing is really helpful, because when you are a live mixer and it's a lot of the song is just mono, or basically mono, and then suddenly something really spacious happens, and this is a very good case, because as a guitarist you can then open up that possibility, or you program like a rhythm guitar that's all mono, and then for the chorus you
widen it up.
You put the dry signal to the left, and then 20 milliseconds to the right, all full, and then you suddenly have this wow. And these things it's very much like a studio production, but it's like a studio production with a little more drama to it, you know. It's not as subdued as a lot of studio stuff is. It has to be a little more, you know. And this is also that's the great thing, you know, and because you have all these options with the AMP1. So as a basic sound, like for instance, this was like a clean sound with boost, because it gets a little edgier through this. No? And it's in the beginning of the set or something, or there's a sound which it's very much about. Oh, but that's not even what I wanted to. Anyway, other sounds are just basic mean. I double a lot of bass lines,
with
and
octave,
make them a little more dramatic. Look where I can find that. That's because, as I said, it's a little bit of a problem at times when it's synth basses, and they are. Let me hold you. Let me find it. It's not in the settings, so I can show you. Can't find it now. Well, anyway, it's not. I had it, but here we are.
Hey, habibi l'chaim. krass sehe, wie alles fließt. Das Ziel ist das Paradies, die Augen geschlossen für tieferes Sein, in Glaube und Hoffnung und Liebe vereint. Du bist genug, so wie es jetzt ist, es ist gut, großes Gewächs, beendet die Kränkung, die Seele entspannt, ich erkenne das Geschenk und ich nehme es an. Bedingungslos bin ich im Heute, in uns ist große kindliche Freude, ich bin, was ich sein kann, Mensch jetzt am Leben, mit allem im Einklang. Gesegnet geboren, es ist ganz gleich für, es in jeder Pore und bin dankbar dafür, sinnlich berauscht, ich bin, was ich brauche, es stimmt jetzt genau und ich trinke darauf.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
And I'd have to stand, and then you turn. It's a lot of distortion, but you turn the guitar down a little bit because it gets tighter, and then you have to lock in, and that's good. That's one of the rare cases where you like in ear, because usually I hate it.
Yeah.
But it's yeah. You say digital sucks, but I think it's the great thing. It's not digital. Oh, I mean, this thing is digital, but that's not digital.
Yeah.
And because, and why do I do this? Because I don't want to have nothing against Kemper, but I don't want to have a Helix or a Kemper because it feels completely different.
And you had a Kemper, right?
I play Kemper with the Rodgau project, and I get completely mad about the latency. It makes me sick. I mean, it's only maybe 4 or 5 milliseconds, but I just don't stand it anymore. And I have to use it. It's all good. But if you play like complicated or tight stuff, you think, who is this? Who's the guy that's playing?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like you. Here's a good question. You are controlling gain with MIDI from the HXFX?
Yes, I do. I could show you an example.
Which is control change number 20, by the way.
Let me see. Let's. Yeah, here. So this is the channel without the gain change. And that's. It's mainly. I mean, the only thing with this for the solo sound, of course, it's louder, and there's the boots, but you know, without the boots, it's like this. Forget about the delay now, and that's the
same.
Of course, it's because it's. I'm playing something like this, you know, it's a lot of timing stuff.
Yeah. And this is the vintage channel.
It's the vintage channel.
So, and is this the guitar still all the way up?
Yeah.
So this is the vintage channel with gain on 8 set on the AMP1, but then it's reduced via the HXFX to whatever. Is it minimum, or do you remember? Do you know what the settings are? At least it's a lot less.
It's a lot less. It's something 20. Or
yeah,
something, maybe. So it's really, the thing is, it doesn't change when you turn the knob. So you have to program it and then find out, because it's sort of the moment you switch the channel,
then you hear the difference.
Then the M1. It's not that the control is automatically controlling the M1. So it's a little bit. That's the only thing, but you have to know that. But it's not much of a problem, but it's really useful. Because this is almost like an extra channel.
Yeah. I mean, this is something people didn't know about the AMP1 at the beginning. You know, when the AMP1 came out, I mean, the first thing is it's 4-channel that only has 3 foot switches. So, hey, what's going on here? I mean, I have to admit, I'm not the super smartest and easiest guy, but I want to offer more than you expect, and therefore I have always this backdoor extra thing. And one of the extra things always has been the gain. And in the remote one, which is the easy foot controller, there is you press and hold boost, and then you dial in the amount of gain. Okay, and since we have stopped the production of this, paused, so to speak, waiting for the AMP-X to come and make a new version of that, we came out with the one control, which is this little fellow that also has the gain control here, and this gives you a lot of different sounds. What Ali just demonstrated.
And it's that is an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you don't have something to externally run it, then of course
this will do this. This will give you the same sound, but it will not give you all the effects and stuff.
Yeah. And that is, and then you have to experiment, of course. But I'm kind of turning the whole thing pretty much up, not 10 but 8 maybe or something. And it's also the master is 3/4.
Yeah.
And then you can always make it. You could control, in the HXFX, the output.
Because these parameters, these control change commands, they reduce, which means the master volume reduces from 100% lower to whatever percentage, and the same thing about the gain. So all these control change commands reduce gain, master volume, or power soak. And that's the way it works. You cannot add, you cannot increase, you can only deduct from the top. It works.
There's enough headroom, and the great thing about all these setups, whether it's always about have as much headroom as possible, and then reduce, and because there's no, I actually experimented with. The thing is, we don't want to know, but not to program. I'm exactly the same guy. That's why we're from the same impatient mindset. What I have a little bit experiment with, and I have not exactly come to, is with the power soak. That you really program certain sounds that have a specific kind of a power soak vibe to them.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of getting close to this, but I'm not exactly right now. The other thing is, of course, you can use this very elaborate piece of boutique gear.
out of plastic.
Out of plastic.
Yeah.
You can, of course, assign it to any kind of parameter.
Yeah.
And I had it as a wah-wah in one song, and a lot of just let me see where I can find something that is that you usually have a cello player in the band, but he lives in Portugal now, and this was a little bit of a problem. To play his part,
the cello part,
and it's just pitch octave down, and then you take a little bit of the original octave, and this is all in. You can, it's no problem. You can assign it, but I advise you not to use it, not to program a volume pedal on every sound when you don't need it. Don't do it, because a lot of the times you turn it down and then you save the sound.
And then it's saved
instead. You have to. To
press it all the way down.
And there's a lot of little traps here that you have to avoid. But if you keep it simple and don't use too much stuff. And even the emulations of the overdrive pedals, which is all digital, and of course it's 6 years old, 8 years old, so they have to. Probably there are algorithms out there that are much more elaborated. But if you use it just a little bit to, like, what do you do with an overdrive pedal? You focus. You move the mid frequencies.
You focus the mids to a certain
and that's if you want it more. Then there's if you want it like a little more nasal, 800 hertz, and you take a tube screamer. If you want it lower, for instance, a Nobles. I mean, they call it different, but it's kind of there's a Nobles in there, and you can always find out. That's what I like about the pedal. It's not the real thing, but it's pretty close to the real thing.
Here I see a question, Andrea Lazzarani. Do you have volume drop and preset change? Basically, you can program any volume you want.
You know, the thing is with me, since I had the thing for 2 weeks, you can, in the HXFX, and I think it's Patrick and people who really know about the thing, is to manage the whole trailing thing, one sound into the next and so on with the snapshots and so on.
Yeah.
I haven't done that. So I kind of have little gaps in between the sounds, but I didn't really care.
For you it was fine. Yeah.
But if you really want to go further to this, I really advise or recommend that there's a lot of YouTube tutorials how to do this properly. It's not a problem. It's just I didn't have the time. The power soak thing. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Let me explain what power soak actually means. The term power soak comes from the good old Tom Scholz power soak, which was a load resistor that you would put onto your Marshall so you could crank the amp and not die of volume. So this is the beginning of the word power soak. But what we actually want is power amp saturation, and we want that at a certain kind of volume that is not killing us. 100 watt amps can kill. Therefore, people buy like low wattage tube amps these days, the 20 watt or 18 watt Marshalls, or even smaller amps. So, and what I have done in the AMP1 circuitry from day one is I designed a 100 watt tube power amp using the nanotube and analog circuitry that is doing the clipping and the zagging of what's happening in my beloved vintage amps. And what I can do on the soak or the power soak parameter that I can access via MIDI or via one control or the remote one is I move actually the top wattage. So I can have 100 watt headroom, I can go down continuously to 7 watts, and in this range I have 0 negative effects. I just reduce the wattage. I mean, maybe you think 100 watt sounds more alive than 7. Yeah, because it's the headroom that you have. But from the physics, from the full electronics, when I go down to the middle position, just above the middle position, it's 7 watts. And it is 100% pure, the signal of the AMP1 power amp stage with all the current feedback interaction and all the anything just like a real tube amp and no side effects. And this is accessible, as I said, with the one control, with MIDI or the remote one. And now is the question, do you need it? Or what do you need it for? And of course, if you are a blues player and you want to have a power amp saturation,
it sounds a little different. Like
yeah.
if I, as far as my experimentation went, I might have programmed it somewhere because you could. It's like I chose the same volume, but the one was. The volume reduction with like output control of
volume,
and the other was with the
power
I used with the power soak, and it sounds different. It's a little mellower.
Yes,
and it has a different kind of. It has this sort of sagging. Element. So if you want that for your sound, especially when you have like you want a nice solo sound that's kind of has a singing quality, and you don't want it too much into your face
and too aggressive.
Then it just a little bit, and it's kind of a spice.
Yes.
And that's a great thing. You can once you have found and you can program some sound that you have, and this is where I go from, and then you can and now it's a nice thing to put this on the palette.
Yeah, and here one thing that I'm proud of is I do use Class D in the power amp section because it's the most efficient designed by nature to have the output power and all the options. Just making the reference that AMP1 is taking 13 watts only versus 200 on a tube amp because the tube amp has all the heat and stuff. But on the other hand I can scale it down, and the effects that I get is what I get from a tube amp. And I learned this in my studio guitar player days. When I recorded some tracks, I found when I crank the amp, when I get the power amp alive, there is a certain point in power amps where, you know, some sounds they want to have the power amp.
Yeah, absolutely. Also the feel of playing.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing. And then of course the interaction with the guitar and the amplifier and all these stuff. I mean, you cannot do that with anything, you know, because if you stand in front of a loud amplifier and your guitar starts to not really feedback, but starts to interact or inter-react with the then, but so it's there's, even for me, and I've kind of was diving into this last month, but I still, if right now I'm kind of programming a complete new setup because I play in a musical about Eintracht Frankfurt. And
okay, you have to explain what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we all know what a musical is, but there's a German soccer club.
Yeah, it's my hometown, Frankfurt, and we have like really passionate fans.
Yeah.
So this friend of mine, Henny, who I played with at the Monotones, just to answer your question, no, with the Monotones we play what we always played.
Yeah.
With Henny and he and this is low volume on stage, but you want you want a real sound.
Yeah.
So this is perfect. This is perfect, and then this is a good thing to Schwarz-Weiß wie Schnee. We're playing that. This is. Do I have the sound? This is, you know, you have to understand, you guys out there. There's a band from Frankfurt called Tanka, and they play. That's the way they harmonize the song. You know.
Yeah.
And we're playing that too, and so and that's, you can do it. It's no problem.
Yeah, I make one more technical comment why I'm so fucking proud of my power soap and my power amp design is, you know, there are some other pedal amps out there and they might use Class D, but their Class D, what they are using is the same design like for PA cabinets, totally neutral, totally flat, and we love the vintage amps because they have tube power amps and they get alive, and this was a key component for me in my design. Otherwise, I'm not playing an effects processor. Some people love to do that, but I mean, we are old school, we come from the real deal, and we want that taste.
For me, it was like really good because I have long experience with digital amplifiers. I played Centera on tour with the Rilke Project 20 years ago. Yeah. And I recognized your amp. I recognized your Marshall.
Well, you know.
And it actually, this was a very good, back then, it was a digital amp with very low latency.
Yes.
And for me, this is absolutely essential. This is a have or have not, especially with some, like for instance, when you record with IRs in the studio, and you also record with microphones, you really have to check the face stability, because usually, like a lot of the IRs now, the IR boxes, they have at least 4 or 5 milliseconds latency, and that completely messes up the face situation, and you wonder why is this sounding so strange, and so this is something, and that's the great thing also about the Blue Box, because it has really, really low latency.
Yeah, it is it is 0.5 to 0.6 milliseconds, under 1 millisecond.
Yeah.
And the trick, it's actually really dirty technological trick we have done there. But I'm the nerd on low latency. I just like you, I hate latency, and there is no other digital product on the planet with this low latency. If you have one, send it here and you get a free beer. I promise you, or a full case.
Yeah, and the thing is, of course, it sounds very nerdy, and people say, well, you're standing away 3 meters from the amp, it's the same latency anyway. No, first of all, latencies are adding up.
Yeah.
When you are in a system with the in-ear monitoring that has like maybe wireless in-ear or something, then you play with wireless guitars.
Yeah.
You pile up latencies to a point where you don't really know where you're playing, and this is why I try to always play with cable. I try to have cable in-ear.
Yeah.
Because it's not a problem if it's just one night, but if you play like a 20 gig tour and there's this part where you play like a kind of a tight funk guitar, and you think, who's this sucker who's playing? It's not me.
Is it me?
It's not me.
Yeah.
And then you get like, you really love it when it works.
Yeah. One little thing about the techno talk. I have a few things coming up this week, and first there's a gig tomorrow, and on Friday and on Saturday, and so you can see this with Sean Evans. And on Saturday, for those who want to have the nerdy talk in German, I do a workshop, a clinic at 2 in the afternoon. In the Werkhof Hohenlimburg, which is in the Ruhrgebiet, a very people-crowded area of Germany. Just come and ask more nerdy questions. I have prepared some certificate of nerd. There's only 10, so if you are a real nerd, I can give you a certification. Only if you stand my tests.
Harry, is the latency acceptable by using actually in 4K? Good question. Yeah. But I have to say, I have no problems, because I think the thing is there's no amp modeling going on, which I think makes the whole thing
even slower.
No, because amp modeling is usually like the big thing.
There is latency by the conversion, but the thing is.
It's like in any multi-effect gear. I had Boss. I played with the last tour. I played with the Boss GT. Was it 1100? It was like, and I never had. This not. I don't have problems with that. It's usually when you have like when the processor
is doing amp modeling
hard work.
Yeah. Then it's getting slower, and that's the thing that I. Sorry, I have to say it about the camper. When I switch presets on the camper, the latency goes all over the place. And that's something which is even more crazy for me, because it's like now I can adjust to this latency and I go to another preset and then I have a different latency. Yeah, it's like, who's this guy and who's this guy? Yeah. Of course, it's all me. But
I think a lot of people, then it's an industry standard now. People, because nobody wants to haul a lot of backline around, a lot of bands play with all digital gear, and I don't know. I'm kind of. It's not about like old school. It's just it feels that somebody should just drag a Marshall, 101 Marshall on stage, and just for the fun of it, But of course I don't do it in this case. There's other cases where I do it, but in this case I think it's a good thing. It feels like an amp. It feels like an amp with effects. It's okay. Yeah. But it's small, and that's why I gravitated towards, and I wasn't disappointed, because I bought this the HXFX used.
Yeah.
I think it was my cheapest rig in
years.
In I don't know,
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah. And the good thing about Ali is, I mean, we're talking all these different styles he's doing. In the Rodgau Monotones, I remember when you invited me to play with, I was playing the real 100-watt Royo Grande amp from Raimund with no effects, no nothing, just sheer volume. And, you know, and nobody was complaining. Of course, there were like, I don't know, 6,000 or 8,000 people. And your sound guy was like, hey guys, we know it's okay, just have fun. I had to move sometimes a little bit away from the cabinet because it was like, hello.
And it's not pleasant. That's one of the things, and that's the thing. What about the modeling problem is that it's an idolized idea of a sound. It's like a perfectly recorded sound, but the actual amplifier, I give you the recommendation. You might not find a 59 Les Paul, but you take any old Les Paul and put it into a 1959. That's the type of Marshall.
100-watt Marshall.
Put it in.
Crank it.
Try to crank it, and it's pretty ugly. Yeah. It's not beautiful, and then you have to somehow tame it. It's a wild horse.
Yeah.
But that is a great experience because you are much more involved in the actual sound.
Yeah.
It's not a perfectly processed sound.
Yeah. I mean, this is the difference of a real white horse versus a car.
It's an electric car with a Porsche recorded Porsche sound. You know, like you could turn. Could you please turn it up? Oh, let's be a Maserati today.
Yeah.
Maybe they have that in a couple of years.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, the taming a horse, it is a challenge, and it does something to you.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to do this your whole life, but I personally had a phase where I was so desperate to learn how to tame a horse. Talking about my 100-watt Marshall, no master volume, and 50 watts, and no power soaks, because that made me a better guitar player in the end, a better tone guitar player.
I don't, sometimes it sounds like old farts telling from
from last century, which is true,
from the Civil War or something. But it's fun. Yeah. It's fun to do. It's fun. It's fun to use, with your adrenaline of fear.
Yeah.
But then when you and you turn it up and you. Off-topic question: do you prefer Les Paul type 50s wiring or modern wiring? I prefer modern wiring. I don't like 50s wiring at all that much because it's a very unpredictable tone control. And I use tone control, and I think it's kind of strange. But a lot of people don't like it.
I have to admit, I'm the 50 wiring kind of guy. Why? Because I believe I can get some sounds that are not in the other wiring.
Yeah. And vice versa.
Yeah.
And I think you more come from a Strat.
Yeah.
And so you gravitate towards something that is more in the Strat area.
Yeah. And you are the Les Paul.
And I come from the. my actually, I don't really know, but it's on ZZ Top Fandango. There's a tune called Thunderbird. Mm-hmm. It's a live tune, and I think it's not even the Les Paul. I think it's the Flying V. Mm-hmm. But it's like, it sounds like a truck is coming at you. It's like.
And I mean, this is before you knew me, but when I was watching you with the Rodgau Monotones here somewhere in Völkling or some local gig here, this was quite some experience because this band was a truck coming at you,
And kind of a nice truck, like a truck where you come.
No, it was a real experience, and I remember you had some humbucker guitar. I don't think it was Les Paul. It was, I don't know. It was 80s, maybe.
Maybe it's the Erlewine. I have Was this a Strat-shaped guitar that had one pickup?
Yeah, one pickup guitar.
Yeah, that's an RL1 automatic, which basically has kind of a Strat shape, but it's almost like Les Paul.
Les Paul in a Strat.
Disguise. You know.
I mean, it's so long ago. This was.
Yeah, it sounds that sounds really big. Like
I mean, this was an experience. I mean, this was after watching Ali and the band. I knew what time it is when it comes to guitar. I mean, it's like this was definitely loud. The concert live concert that I saw before that, which was actually my very first live concert of all times, was Steel Pulse, a reggae band, and then and then this was like, tick, and then you guys,
There was a reggae producer in Edo Tanki's studio, a friend of mine, and you already played with him. He said, increase bass on all frequencies. I think that's very nice. That's a nice
way of
philosophical way to talk about reggae. Increase bass on all frequencies.
Yeah. Okay, talking about frequencies, not to forget Ali's latest solo album. And
with Thomas on it.
I'm one of the guests. There's a lot of killer guitar. Guitar playing by Ali, but also killer other musicians. I don't know how many. The list
17.
Is 17. Okay,
yeah, I mean, I kind of went over the top this time.
Yeah, it is the creme de la creme of.
It's called Boomer Bands.
Of course.
After Tim Henson's addressing strange guitar idiosyncrasies in elderly society, which I have to admit that I'm guilty of.
Well, you can confess that you like it. Why not?
And actually, I in the Boomer Bands thing is something where you can. I actually tried to find out what is my favorite Boomer Bands thing.
Yeah.
And there's a thing in the outro solo of Freebird.
Okay.
And this is and it's this, and it goes. We could turn it down. He just goes on. And it just goes up like this.
Yeah.
And it's so redundant.
Yeah.
I'm trying to where he actually starts. It goes up to. In the end, it's just do-dee 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 do-dee, and then it just goes up, and it's so dumb, but it's so effective.
Yeah. It's so good.
It's like.
Okay. I have too much volume here. Okay, sorry.
And I admit, if something is so dumb and so effective,
You like it.
I like it.
Okay, Boomer Bands. Are you touring with this?
Yeah, but this is going to be at the beginning of next year. It's a quartet thing, and with Annika Nilles, the great drummer of the last drummer of the Jeff Beck band.
Yeah.
And she's from my area basically.
Yeah.
And she has played the overwhelming majority of that record, and she has time then, so we do a couple of gigs, and that would be great. It's pretty merciless jazz rock. But somebody's got to do it, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, it has all those colors and I mean killer musicians. It's on this record. There's also Moritz Müller. If you don't know Moritz Müller, it's another drummer that I can recommend to check out.
Yeah, incredible guy.
Yeah, I mean, and our dear friend Raoul Walton is also on this one.
Yeah, Raoul. Yeah. Kai Eckhart, former John McLaughlin bass player, who's also, I mean, it sounds like bragging, but they're kind of all from our area. They got away. I have to stay. No. So some of these homies are on the record. It's great.
What's the thing about Frankfurt area? I mean, is there? Do we have an explanation why there's such a high
In
density.
I would say like Frankfurt, Mannheim to Stuttgart. It's just the same area, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we had a lot of American soldiers back then that went out on the weekend and wanted live music, and so a lot of people that I know, like Raymond, the other guitarist who sadly died, he started to play in the so-called AMI band. And you learn a couple of hundred songs. You play in front of very, very different kind of audiences, and you learn your craft. And that's, I guess, it's one of the reasons.
Right. Yeah. So that's the thing about the music scene here, Ali's record. If you guys want to check out my personal clinic this week, Saturday, I would love to see you there. But we have a full section with Patrick Gifford that I wanted to show.
I have to study.
Yeah, because Patrick is he's a guitar player. He used to work, I think, for Microsoft, so he has a little bit understanding of the whole thing. But when we've done the interview, he told me also that when he is in the guitar world, the mindset is completely different, and we are basically all the same. And that's but he has contributed a lot of great input for the BluGuitar family or team, which I put on BluGuitar, which I put on the Facebook group and things. So thanks Patrick for doing this. Famous last words of Ali Neander for today. Are we happy?
It's always a pleasure.
Okay, for me it's always a big pleasure to have you
Thank
here.
you for giving me a backup rig. And I didn't need it, but it was good to have.
It's always good to have.
And of course I needed it to train in my sub, which I actually did again with this football musical thing.
Okay. And who's your sub on the football?
Andy Mette, who's the guitarist with Lethal Dean and Philip Poisel.
Okay. Yeah, this is a very small scene. It's like, this guy plays here, and Lethal Dean is the guy that is produced by, blah blah blah.
Like always, because the thing is, usually you don't want to like audition people. I mean, the idea to audition people, is it's such a strange, awful idea. You normally do it. Take him, he's good. And then, recommendation is the whole thing.
And that's the thing for somebody that is not in the scene yet. You have to do things that other people recognize, and then one day they will check you out. Be active and do something, because if you don't send out the wave what you are capable of doing, there is no other way. You can there is no
you got to play. I mean, I know it's hard, but you got to play all the time. With everybody. And eventually, if you're any good, you will run into somebody who says, "Oh, I know this guy."
And he's great.
I can't do it, but he looks good. I send him. And this is how I would say 80% of all people get into jobs.
And that's same here. Hey, so thanks Ali for joining, and now we come to the section with Patrick Gifford, and thanks Patrick. See you guys. Cheers. Bye bye. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Patrick Gifford. Yeah, we go back quite some years, and there is an interesting journey on his way with amplifiers and multi-effects. And we can maybe learn something from him and his odyssey. And Patrick is also the master of the Facebook group, My Real dream rig. So, first of all, Patrick, what is the kind of music you are doing?
My band that I have now, which is called Born Again Rockers, as you may expect, it's a rock band. We play classic rock, AC/DC, Rolling Stones, ZZ Top, all that stuff.
Right.
And we've been together since 2019 with, different people in the band, but now I have a really great lineup and have a bunch of gigs in the calendar. So I'm looking forward to putting my dream rig back into action.
Yeah. Okay. Let's check out his band for a sec, and then we continue.
That's what I said.
Baby, tell me, does she love you like the way I love you? Does she stimulate you, attract and play you? Tell me, does she miss you? Just just kiss you like the way I do? So I gotta take you home. Well, move it on, is with me.
Yeah, me.
I want to move it on, that same old song. Yeah, with me, sing it only you.
I love rock and roll.
'Cause I'm TNT, I'm dynamite. TNT, and now we're the fight. TNT, I'm a love. TNT, what's next?
Oh, brown sugar, how come you taste so good now? Oh, brown sugar, just like a bag of sugar, yeah. You taste so good now. All right now, baby, it's all right now. Take it on. Baby, all right now. Hey, we're a rebel, yeah. Got early in the morning, got late in the evening, making a music there. With a few red lights, a few old beds, we made a place to sway. No matter what, we got there. I know we'll forget. Smoke on the water, the fire in the sky. And a howl in the traffic pouring rain. Hey, it's alright now. Take it together. It's alright. Jumping jack flash, you took this guy's
I know that you have told me that you had a first contact with AMP1 at the very, very first uh, time it was available, like back in 2000. When was it? 15?
Correct. Yes. So I was looking for back in 2014, I was looking for a small portable amp. And so I did a search, Google search. Look, I think I put in like pedal board amp or something like that.
Hmm.
And I think the only thing I got back was Thomas Blug. And
Yeah.
so then, uh, so I saw this video that you had made at the time talking about, it has to have 100 watts. I remember what you said. Es muss wehtun.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, um, that's actually a good point because for me, I know the span of volumes that I need in my life has uh, is of course bedroom volume for home, and it's as low as possible on the one side. But on the other hand, I play clubs, and sometimes when you play outdoor gigs, you need to have that headroom. Otherwise, forget it. And I
Mhm.
have experienced this myself, suffering from low power on stage. I mean, it's not, I don't need to be the loudest, but it simply needs to work. And
Right.
um, I'm not the kind of guy that wants to be depending on the monitor situation from a,
Mhm.
festival guy where he switches on and off. And I've been there. So
Yeah, sure.
that's one of the reasons why my AMP1 is a full 100 watt, and the power amp is built in. And I'm still proud that up until today there are not so many 100 watt pedal amps in that format.
Right. No, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
that was the starting point. But you didn't get that happy at first glance, right? Or what was it?
Right. So what happened was I put in an order at Thomann, and the amp one wasn't shipping yet. I still remember I was actually in Stockholm for business, writing an email to Thomann saying, "When is my amp one coming?" And so early 2015, it arrived, and to be honest, I didn't know what to do with it. I mean, here's a 4-channel amp with 3 foot switches. So I was thinking, what the hell am I going to do with this?
Confusing.
So
Yeah.
I did use it. I played some gigs with it. I put a pedal like a multi effects. I think it was a Digitech RP1000 at the time. I put
Hmm.
it in front of the amp one with a cab, and I did use it, but it just was. It had functionality that I didn't really understand at the time. And so then I sold it, and I remember I sold it for I mean, for me, it was a very good price. I mean, it went like this. And and then I started down the path of, deluxe reverb, uh, 57 deluxe, angle screamers, line 6 spider valve, with the Bogner
Yeah.
tube amp in there, and more. I mean, I won't bore you
Yeah.
with everything, but I was just, going from one thing to another, because at the time I was in a rock band, and then I started my own blues band. And so I didn't need an angle screamer anymore. So then
Sure.
I went to the deluxe reverb and the Blues Junior and so on. But somehow either because it was too heavy, too big, the Blues Junior for me, just my personal taste, wasn't that satisfying for me. And so this was like a journey that I was on. And then I ended up actually in 2016. So some of these things overlapped, right? So in
Sure. Sure.
2016, I ended up buying a Helix.
Hmm.
And so I'm a Helix user since 2016. And I played gigs with the Helix direct to the mixer for 3 years,
Hmm.
actually.
Hmm.
The guy standing next to me, this was in my blues band. The guy standing next to me was playing a Fender Blues Deluxe, and
Hmm.
he was always complaining about my sound. I remember
Okay.
one time we were at rehearsal, and he strums his guitar, and he goes, "You hear that?" And I said,
Hmm.
"Yes." And he goes, "Now you strum your guitar." And I strum my guitar through the Helix, and he goes, "You don't have that."
Okay.
So, so,
Hmm.
so, so then it went on to, okay, if I get a power amp and a cab. So then I spent a lot of money on an expensive power amp, used it with a cab. Then I thought, well, why don't I try using the Helix with an amp? So then I started using the Helix with an amp. And then I decided in about 2020 that I really would like to have MIDI control of the amp.
Hmm.
So I was still aware of AMP1. I was in the AMP1 user group, but I wasn't really thinking about it at the time. I was thinking I need a big tube amp
Yeah.
with MIDI control. Well, guess what? There aren't that many at that time, at least. There weren't that many tube amps with deep MIDI control.
Yeah.
They would do channel switching, and that was about it.
Sure.
So a friend of mine recommended, why don't you go and check out the AMP1? And I thought,
Again.
I'm somewhat familiar with the AMP1, but I knew nothing about MIDI.
Mm.
So my friend actually loaned me his AMP1,
Hmm.
and you know who this friend is? You know Helmut, right? Who
Yeah, Helmut. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he loaned me his AMP1 so I could test out MIDI. And
Hmm.
so then I could see with the AMP1, how deeply you can go, not only turning things on and off, but I love the gain, the
Hmm.
ability to change gain on the fly. And I said,
Right.
wow, this is what I'm looking for.
Hmm.
And so then I thought, well, the Helix is kind of overkill if I'm using the AMP1. But although I did buy an 80 centimeter pedal board and I put the Helix and the AMP1 on it, and I used that for a while, but man, that thing was a monster. I literally bought a grocery, like a wagon, to
Yeah.
carry that rig behind me. I'm not kidding. Yeah, I mean, because it was just so big and bulky.
Yeah.
So then I decided, okay, the real solution, since I already know the Line 6 world, I'm a Helix user, is the HXFX. So
Right.
then I went down the HXFX. It works very similar to a Helix, just a lot, smaller, less functionality. And that's when I came up with the group of the Real Dream Rig.
Hmm.
Because in the group, I saw a lot of people starting to ask questions about how do these two things work together. And you're not an expert on the HX effects,
No.
and Lions is definitely not an expert on the AMP1. So
Mm.
I thought, let's have a community where people can help each other out. And I
Yeah.
immediately got people like Doc McFarlane. He was one of the
Hmm.
very first people to jump in, and then we started to help each other figure things out, and I learned a lot of things myself in there. And so that was what I was using, and I started out with the Mercury. Then I thought, well, let me try an Iridium, and then I realized, well, I think Mercury is better, so I got the Mercury again.
Hmm.
And so I was gigging with that rig, and I was very happy with it.
Hmm.
But to be honest, I was in a band when I first started my current band. My lead guitar player at the time, he had just switched from an Angle Victor Smolsky 100-watt head
Yeah.
and a 412 cab. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And so he decided, this is just this doesn't work. It's just too much. So he
Hmm.
ended up going for a Kemper. And
Hmm.
so he was playing his Kemper. I was playing my Dream Rig. I was happy. But then at some point, like I said to you, the grass is always greener on
On
the other
other
side.
side. Yeah.
That's why we keep buying stuff because it's just like an endless journey. I hope to God my journey is at an end now, at least for a while. So I went out and bought myself a Kemper stage,
Hmm.
and I had the whole learning curve of the Kemper stage. I like the sound. I have to admit, I really like the sound going direct to the mixer.
Hmm.
It doesn't, actually doesn't compare to an amp with a cab, but
Hmm.
for the purposes of gigging, I was happy with it. So of course, I had to buy two of them. One, I always have to have a backup, right?
Yeah.
So my whole setup was getting, quite expensive. I had the camper cab, I had to buy two of those. Uh,
Yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
then what I realized was the user interface was just not for me.
Okay.
And some people will want to shoot me for saying this. If you say this in the group, they'll probably come and paint things on your house or something. But but it just wasn't for me. People think
Right.
it's absolutely simple, but coming from the Helix and the Line 6 and the HXFX, it just wasn't. I wasn't comfortable with it. So after 18 months, I
Right.
got rid of all my camper gear
Hmm.
and I bought myself another Helix. And you know what happens if you buy a Helix? You need a
No clue.
backup. So
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So then I wasn't totally satisfied with the sound of the Helix, and I thought, damn, I gotta get an amp one again. So I
Hmm.
went out and bought an amp one,
Hmm.
and then what happens then? You have backup. So I have two amp ones, and then I realized right back where I was literally 5 years ago, the Helix and the AMP1 is a great solution if you don't need to go anywhere. If you have always have a huge cage, plenty of room. But back to the HXFX. And so
Smaller.
that's where I am now. I'm literally
Yeah.
back where I started 5 years ago. I mean, I can show it to you if you want to see it because I just
Yeah.
got it all. I got all the equipment, got everything set up.
Sure.
I'll show it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's show us the pedal
There
board.
it
So
is.
this, yeah,
So
a rock
how well you
board.
can see it. It's a Rockboard Quad 4.2, which by the way I had from last time around. It
Sure.
has a it has a nice, this is one thing I really like. It has this cover on the bottom.
Hmm.
So the mess of cables inside, you
It's
don't have
covered.
to worry.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry that they fall out.
Right.
Um, I'm using a Palmer speaker simulator to go to the mixer. Just I've had it for years. It's
And you
the
like it.
Joe Bonamassa signature version. It works for me.
You're talking about this one?
I have that one too.
Okay.
Uh,
You have, but you're talking
I
about
have
the bigger
so
one.
this is this
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
PDO3.
the
Yeah.
Joe Bonamassa signature version. I started with the PDI-09, the one you had in your hand,
Yeah.
and I actually have that in the rehearsal room right now. But this one goes on my board because it's
I,
more.
yeah. This is my little. Here's a little secret. I have this as a reference when I did AMP1. So if you compare this to AMP1 direct out, pretty close. It's not exactly the same. I never do things 100% unless I want it, but
Yeah.
I found in the symbol in the analog world, this was one of the good soundings, and I have of course been involved into many uh, products going, red
Oh
boxes,
yeah.
blue
Yeah.
boxes, and my life
Right.
is full of
Of
direct
little boxes.
solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had the blue box at the beginning. You see it in the profile photo on the Dream Rig page. I
yeah,
love the blue box. I loved it.
yeah,
But then when I started doing other stuff, you know how at least for me, I started selling stuff. And so I sold the blue box, got a very good price for it, I have to say. But I always had this Palmer thing. I had both
yeah,
of them, the PDI-09 and the PDI-03.
yeah,
And one thing I like about the Palmer is it doesn't require any power, and
yeah.
it's
It's
analog,
passive. Yeah, I
and
mean
and it has a
that's the
lot of
thing.
EQ adjustments on it.
Yeah, that's the thing about the passive um, boxes, because they are simple analog filters, and therefore you don't need the power. You
Right.
can't go all the way like with the blue box running IRs, because IRs are um, need to have digital processing, and that needs power. Actually, power with some current. You can't go with 100 milliampere power supply. So 300 is what you should have for a blue box. And most other pedals that do IR things like this one, or like this one, or you know, we I have many speaker emulators here in the room. Um, one little thing that I actually have to thank you a lot is first doing that group, that the real Dream Rig group, and secondly spending so much time writing good content, and one article especially where you summed up all the MIDI settings and problems you run into when combining an AMP1 with an HX effects. And that's something a lot of people are not aware at the beginning, because we have no clue. We think this is a MIDI, we plug it in there, and then we press one button, and then it should work.
Right.
Actually, no, because you have to understand that MIDI is a protocol, a serial protocol, sending different messages, program change messages, control change messages can be sent
Right.
on different channels. So 16
Right.
channels, and the more you send, the worse it gets. Yeah, I always
Well,
have
it's
this.
like I told you, Thomas. I mean,
Yeah,
when I started with the AMP1, I knew nothing about MIDI, absolutely nothing. And I used to be a computer programmer many, many years ago.
yeah,
But I still knew nothing. I knew the concept, but
yeah,
I didn't really know how it worked. And so I learned. I had to learn.
yeah.
And I thought, I made so many mistakes along the way. Why not help other
Share.
people avoid
Yeah.
these mistakes that I made? And I still see people asking even in the Dreamer group is still very active. There's over 1,000 members. I literally added a member to the group yesterday,
Yeah.
and I like last week joined the group, and the first thing he wanted to ask about was MIDI. So, and
Hmm.
I'm a very big fan of using the AMP1 with MIDI, because you have such fantastic control over it. I personally wouldn't use it without MIDI. So my rig is in 4 cm
Hmm.
and it uses MIDI, and that's the way I like it. So I
Yeah.
was glad that I could contribute something in that group that help people. And it wasn't only my input, I learned things from other people. Like once I mentioned Doc McFarlane before, who I know was on your program,
Yeah.
and he was
Doc,
one of the very first members,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like
So
one of
Doc
the first five members of that group.
Yeah, yeah. Doc McFarland is from Nashville, US, and he has a huge background also as a studio guy. He is into he works for a mixing console company. So I'm so happy to have people like him, like you, contributing a lot of experience and knowledge in the group. And what we have done then is we love the group. Sometimes I go there as well, but we took some of these articles onto our Blugipedia knowledge base, because in the Facebook groups, the content kind of goes down the timeline, and then it
Right.
disappears.
Yeah.
And the major ones, which we believe are important, they will end up on the Blugipedia side. And the good thing
Mhm.
about Blugipedia is we have a search bar, and you can find that content easily. I'm not yet 100% satisfied with Blugipedia, um, like the interface and structure. It's just okay. I have plans to really make this a lot better, because we will need it a lot more when MX comes. And we are currently working on getting Blugipedia to the next level, so it's even easier to get access to all the knowledge. And maybe some people don't know, but in the meantime, we put a lot more content to Blugipedia. So if you type in anything about hum, MIDI, blah, 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 you will even find articles, you will find videos, you will find your article, and you will also have links to Academy of Tone, snippets and episodes with timestamps and things. It's tons of work, but my dream here, not my dream, Rick, but my dream Blugipedia is that I will end up having all the knowledge 24/7 on this platform, because I'm happy to help everybody, but I can't. I know the moment MX comes out, everybody will have questions, and
Oh yeah. Yes.
I personally can't handle that. Even if I wanted to, it's like too many people for one person, and I cannot even hire
Right.
5 people, because they will not know exactly the same certified knowledge. So that's the way how we think we should handle that thing to get the knowledge down to Blugipedia and help everybody to get access to it. And then we can spread this into groups and guide people from here to there, and whatever helps, helps. So that's the big project.
Sure. Well, absolutely. Somebody referenced an article in Blugipedia a couple of weeks ago, and I was amazed at how much information is in there now. It
Yeah.
was fantastic. So I can definitely recommend that people look in Blugipedia when they have a question. One thing I want to mention, Thomas,
Yeah.
is that you do remember that I created the AMP1 group too.
Oh yeah.
In And I have about 1,000 members right now.
And not a
And
single
in fact,
unit out there.
no, I mean, that just shows you, what's going to happen. It's going to be a
Yeah,
big explosion.
I know.
I literally added a guy to the AMP1 group also yesterday.
Yeah,
So people the interest is just coming in and coming in. It's amazing.
yeah.
And I changed the name of the AMP1 group from AMP1 user group, because then the only person would be you,
That's me.
to the AMP1 interest group.
Yeah,
And so I hope that the same thing's going to happen when AMP1 ships and people start to get their hands on it.
yeah,
We can get a lot of people explaining how they got something to work or asking
yeah.
questions, and really, the same thing with the community. Because, the only question anybody asks right now, I don't have to tell you what that is in the AMP1 group. You already
It's
know.
ready, and it's shipping when it's finished. So let me finish first. I'm the only thing I want to say again is I don't want to make the compromise for the my masterpiece in life. It's that big.
Yes,
I
sure.
came to the point to realize that, because in my journey I started with tube amps. I have been with using Kettner for 27 years, designed all kind of amps, modeling analog, transistor, hybrids and whatnot, and then coming up with something like um, uh, AMP1, which is a hybrid thing, but doing a lot of tube amps. And I think over the last 10 years, I could prove that. But the next thing is, um, I'm at this level where, how did you say, it has to hurt? The volume has to
That's
hurt.
what's Baytune. That's
Yeah,
what's Baytune. Those
it
were your
was,
words.
yeah,
It
it was,
has to hurt.
yeah. It was with Medium. So I'm not compromising on power, and I'm not compromising on the sound. And my vision is probably very easy to understand, but we are facing um, fundamental tasks that we have to cover, which we do. And I know I have the right team, but we are a small company, and that's why it takes longer than expect. For me, I'm just sitting in my office having tons of software issues, but I have a killer tone. And this is going from, and this gives me the confidence that I know when it's finished, there is nothing like it. And
Right.
if you don't hear the difference, go and play whatever you like, play any modeler. I'm happy for you guys, because you can save a lot of money, and those little amounts of amp access available will be in other hands. You remember the thing about BluGuitar is we are not a big company, so we don't ship thousands at the first day. And even if you're like yourself, if you're not happy, if you won't get rid of a BluGuitar product, they don't go down in prices that much, because uh, I always say is we can be lucky if BluGuitar has something in stock to sell.
Yeah. Well, we all know that, Thomas. We all know that. I mean, when the people start writing messages, they have Blue Box again. They have Blue Box again.
Yeah, and but by the way, that's that for me, it's a positive thing, because I don't want to be the guy that burns the money of my customers. And I want to keep the value as high as possible. It's like my 61 Strat, you know, is it getting cheaper? The more I use it, maybe not. And
I don't
okay, it's not as extreme with the BluGuitar products, but it makes me feel comfortable that I know all the stuff in the background still has some value.
Yeah,
And
right.
and
Absolutely.
that's my philosophy. So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
when the AMP-X arrives and you know I have to make the decision what to do with my AMP1s, maybe I keep them as a backup. But I know
yeah,
that I know I won't lose money if I decide to sell them because the value is there. I mean, the market has really stabilized what is the
yeah,
value of a used AMP1, and it
yeah,
doesn't move. It
yeah,
stays there
yeah.
because an amp, you know, is not going down in terms of functionality. It doesn't wear out. I mean, a few years ago, I was setting up a pedal board and I literally bounced my AMP1 off of the floor.
Mhm.
And imagine if I had done that with that Marshall in the
Sure.
background
No,
there,
wouldn't have to
right?
talk.
But I plugged it in, no problem.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's got so much going for it. And the thing is, everybody's anxious and everybody's waiting and everybody's getting impatient. But the good thing is we know that you're so picky and you're such a perfectionist that if it meets your standards, it will
it would.
definitely meet mine.
It will be okay. It will be okay. Trust me. So yeah,
So
that's
Thomas,
what's good.
one thing since we're talking about AMP-X, okay, you're
Yeah,
wearing your BluGuitar shirt. I have a AMP1 shirt. I have exactly that shirt. I took it out of the
yeah,
drawer this morning.
yeah.
I decided to wear this shirt instead.
Ah, okay. Yeah, you are showing the future. And trust me, guys, there is always room for an AMP1 in this world. AMP-X is just a complete package for the guys like you that want to combine everything. But you know, AC/DC and all these guys, they don't have helixes on stages. They play one sound, and so the
Yeah.
feature set of an AMP1 as it is will it's a classic and it will not go away, you know. So
And you know what? That's why I went back to the AMP1 and the HXFX because it does exactly what I want. It sounds fantastic. It's lightweight. It's easy to set up when I have a gig with a tiny stage, which unfortunately
yeah,
those are
most of us have, yeah.
play. And I don't have to worry about having a big rack somewhere on stage or a 80 centimeter pedal board like I had before, or lugging something in and out of my car that weighs 24 kilos, which I also was doing for a while. So, I mean, for me, it's just, back to the future.
Yeah, okay. Hey, Patrick, thanks so much for sharing all this information. Thanks for doing the groups. That's extra thanks from my side because uh, I know it makes people happy. And in the end, that's the biggest thing you can do on this planet. I mean, this is why I do the music. I do it for myself, makes me happy, but it also makes other people happy. If other people don't get happy, I stay home and be happy myself.
Well, you're doing a great job of making a lot of people happy, and we're going to have a lot more happy people in the near future, right?
Okie
So
doke.
thank you,
Hey,
Thomas. I mean, really, thanks a lot for inviting me. It's really a pleasure, and I'm glad this is actually the first time we've spoken face to face. It's always been on the phone.
yeah,
I don't know if you remember this, but once you called me and said, "Hey, do you happen to know a PhD in mechanical engineering who can help me with that lid on the
clap. Yeah,
AmpX?"
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
unfortunately,
I have solved the issue. I'm super happy. So yeah, it's done, but it's a long journey. Okay,
yeah,
hey,
absolutely. All right, Thomas. Thank you so
Patrick
much.
Gifford, thanks.
All right. Thank
Cheers.
you. Take care. Bye-bye.